EU is looking insane. They lane swap champions.
Now here comes Snoop Dogg. He's ready for the fight. Level 6 he goes on Nisqy.
They just lane swap players and stuff. They just pick like random champions as well.
Dragon, he does so much damage.
I don't think it's possible for us to lose. I don't think Euro will lose. I think NA already lost. I think if we can play Pi jungle, Bard, Zoe bot lane, and everyone is kind of first timing our champs, then I think they just can't win.
TL beat G2, which was pretty surprising. Maybe TL can carry NA.
Team Liquid finally striking the group stage at Rift Rivals.
NA surely has made a pretty good comeback in day 2. Every EU team has lost 1 game each, I believe.
Marching it down to USA chance. The LCS studio has woke up. Sven dancing on him, reminding him what Rift Rivals is all about. It's a little BM, it's a little banter.
I mean, beating Fnatic is nothing new to me, you know, so I feel in my comfort zone here.
I don't know what will happen if NA would win, honestly. There is just things that my mind can't comprehend, and this is one of those.
I think EU has demolished NA so far.
Miracles can always happen. If NA somehow catches a miracle over the night, then they will win.
Yeah, being way too cocky like that, when you start losing, you're definitely gonna have like this reality-shattering moment. So being overconfident, I'm glad the EU is overconfident.
Welcome back to Rift Rivals, powered by Alienware, as we prep for Game 1 of our final Best of 5. Heading into the final, though, we wanted to take a look at some of the standout performances from Day 2, starting with TSM's Acadian on Elise versus Fnatic.
I mean, we had talked so much about wanting TSM to play aggressive, wanting them to ramp up the speed of the game after playing these slow games in the early days, but they got destroyed. Acadian was a big part of this on the Elise. Yes, he had the failed dive that so many people were pointing to, but he ended up at 1 point 5,000 gold ahead of Dan. He was everywhere on the map. He was 3 levels up. He was dominating, and this is what we want to see from these guys.
Biggest comeback story of the tournament.
Right, had a poor Trundle game to start things
Yes,
off.
Trundle game was one of the worst we saw in the tournament. And then the Elise game, actually, when the team needed it the most. And also, I think it shows TSM, it hints them towards the path of what you should be doing in order to beat some of these teams. Not giving away too many strategies, but I think having someone that can gank in the early game when you're struggling to survive the early game is a pretty smart choice.
Yeah, and it wasn't just the Elise. It was Lucian. It was 2, solo laners that turn online fairly early, the Nico and the Irelia. So I like the total shift from TSM, and this is what we saw from them in spring, playing aggressive, looking to close out games, looking to take fights. You have talented solo laners. This is what you should be relying on, and I really hope that's the TSM we see today.
Yeah, the style we've wanted to see from TSM, the type of champion we've wanted to see piloted from Acadian, and a nice little step up for him after a struggle here in the summer split so far domestically. Next up, though, let's talk about another jungler, this time from the EU side of things. Cold on the Rek side. My God, 909.
Oh yeah, spring split, he had so many good Rek'Sai games. We have only had, I believe, a few here in summer, but this was one of the very, very good ones from him, and I'm always very happy when I see my boy Cold gank everywhere, pop off on things like Rek'Sai.
Yeah, I mean, he played an incredibly strong game. He was sitting at or near 100% KP throughout most of this game. Really did take over, and certainly got to showcase just how good he can be.
A big smile on the face there. Again, going 909 on the KDA. And finally, we land on Mickey X, who piloted a disgusting Bard in the bot lane.
This was just not fair. There's got to be something that you could do about this. Like, they're getting ganked. They were winning every 2v3. You're supposed to be flashing away. Why are you scared? What are you doing?
I mean, this was honestly one of the best, if not the best, competitive Bard game I've seen.
Wow. High praise right there.
I think the amount of big plays a player like Mickey can pull off, especially when he has a team who wants to follow these kind of moves, it's just fantastic. And this is really a player that ever since he joined G2, we always knew he was mechanically gifted on previous teams, on Misfits and so on. But like joining G2 and finding 4 other players who are literally the exact same in terms of how to play the game, has just unleashed Mickey completely.
I mean, they have basically like the mind melt. You see that last Q flash there on the Bard, after he actually gets spell shield out of the Sivir. Perkz was already shooting his Paddle Star towards where the stun target was going to be.
Right.
That sort of coordination, when you have that level of mechanics, is just insane, and that's why they were 2v3ing TSM's bot lane and jungle over and over.
Trust and coordination, that barred one of the many scary things about EU in this tournament when it comes to the way that NA looks at things. To get North America a full grasp, though, of the terror that has arrived at the LCS studio, we did send Mark to give a quick lesson on the LEC.
As fans left the LCS arena last night, there was one question on everyone's mind. Who are we fighting so closely with? What is LEC is the question everyone is wondering, and I think I know why. No one knows the answer. Observe. Excuse me, I need help identifying. Can any of you tell me what you see here?
Crown. Crown. Well, I mean, I'm seeing some kindergarten art, some squiggly lines, so some progress, right?
What do you see when you look at this picture?
Water fountain type of thing coming up.
TSM fans, the greatest fans in North America, what do you see when you look at this image?
Sound wave visualizer.
What is it that you see when you look at this image?
A paint bucket.
Paint bucket.
A crown.
Another crown. Cloud9 fans, the staple of North America, always doing us proud. What do you see when you look at this logo?
I see the guys who took down SKT, and that's about it.
It looks like a bunch of sore losers.
I don't know how you can be a sore loser while you win, but I think I know what you're gonna say. But what do you see when you look at this picture?
Obviously greatness.
You sure it's not a trash can?
No, definitely not. It's not the NA logo.
Oh, my bad. Well, there you have it. Results are inconclusive. Most people do lean towards Crown, but I believe that's just because they're winning. I personally still am convinced that this is a bear trap, but who knows? Maybe that's the beauty of it. It can be whatever it is you want it to be.
I'm like a bear trap. I'm like, what do you see, Zeyzal?
I was pretty convinced by the paint bucket when it's upside down.
Paint bucket upside down.
I mean, it's the drips down the side.
Mm-hmm. Officio.
You guys are really jealous.
What about you?
I see a crown.
A crown?
Yeah.
It's a funky looking crown. It doesn't connect.
A crown can look
like
however you want it to look.
It's just two separate pieces of metal that are just gonna like split and fall off the side of your head like that.
If you're the king, you decide yourself how it's gonna look.
Crown, if I do say so myself. When it comes to the difficulties North America ran into versus Europe, we wanted to look at how complicated it is to draft against these teams in the group stage. To do that, we're gonna look at one draft in particular.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things people have been talking about throughout this tournament so much is the flexibility of Europe, and we wanted to demonstrate just how hard it is to actually draft against this. So we are going to look against Origin versus TSM and just talking through what all you have to keep in mind with these flex picks.
Yeah, and this is, again, a draft that obviously makes, myself as European, but also as an Origin representative, very proud. This really shows the amount of choices you're constantly offering for your own team in terms of where people want to go, but also what the other coach has to constantly think about, which is obviously a little bit unfair. In this case here, when he gets the first pick Yuumi on the TSM side, you know that's going support.
Right.
So Origin already knows what's happening with that first pick.
Exactly. Origin knows exactly where the Yuumi is going. When you're looking over at this Yasuo, not only are you not sure which lane it's going, you're not sure which player is going to be piloting it, you have to now think not only, okay, we want to have Yuumi, what AD would make it safe with the Yuumi if it's going to be going bot lane? What can I not pick in top or mid lane that would actually be able to be countered by the Yasuo if it is flexed in that direction? And, who is going to be playing it? Where do I go? You're limiting yourself already in a lot of picks and having to think through so many things in a short amount of time.
And then there's, of course, matchups, there's small combos that you're looking at, like Sejuani, Yasuo always been...
You want to take away a
Great
Gragas.
combo. Yeah, things like Gragas you have to consider with Yasuo. Other knock-up champions, especially again, because you don't know exactly where it's going. And TSM end up now in this problem, if you look at the next two picks coming in, they show Ezreal. We know that's going bot lane as an AD carry. Then Trundle, who is, in most cases, going jungle versus a Sejuani. Top lane Trundle is not something we have seen for a long time, which again means now that you're operating, if you're Origin, with perfect information on where the enemy picks are going. But on your side, you now have Sejuani who can go jungle or top or support. You have Yasuo who can go to effectively all three lanes. You have Pyke who can go, if you ask G2, to all 5 places. But if most other teams, you look at top lane Pyke, you look at support Pyke,
maybe
as the
mid.
standard, maybe mid. So if you are TSM, you really have no clue what's actually being drafted here.
Exactly, and you can actually see that reflected somewhat in the bans, right? You know, TF, they're saying, okay, well, we're not sure if this Yasuo is going to go mid lane. Let's get TF off the table. That's a pretty meta pick. The Gragas, most people think of as a jungler, but we have even seen it shown as a support. So you're worried, okay, well, could this Sejuani be flexed elsewhere? Could this be going jungle? Is this a support for a Gragas Yasuo bot lane? You know, you're already getting an additional advantage in just what the other team is spending its bans on.
Right. And if you're looking at the full 5 bans from TSM, I think then you end up seeing a lot of these like respect bans in terms of the Gragas, because what if the Pyke maybe goes somewhere else, or the Sejuani, the TF as well, because you're not really sure, can we deal with this now that they have some of these like really good wombo combos like, you know, Yasuo and either Pyke or Sejuani.
Meanwhile, Origin gets to target 2 lanes that they know have not been chosen yet.
Specifically target two solo laners in this case, and then Nico as well is left open. It's something all the European teams have used quite a lot, because again, you can move it to so many different lanes. So not even there are you actually giving away
4
information.
picks, and we still don't know where anything's going.
Exactly, and I mean, at the end of the day, Origin now set themselves up in a draft where Yorick, very good matchup into Jace. Nico, very good matchup into Akali before Akali completes items and actually has kill threat. And now you have this kill lane set up on the bottom side with the Pyke Yasuo, and that is going to be their jungle focus. You have 2 winning solo lanes, you focus the other lane and look to snowball on this Yuumi, which will be very vulnerable. And this is just such a well-orchestrated draft that Origin had the advantage in from start to finish through the utilization of flex picks and the flexibility of their players. Because it's not even NukeDuck piloting the Nico, it's actually Patrick moving mid lane and playing that, while NukeDuck, who had, you know, perhaps more experience on the Yasuo, is going to take that down to the bottom lane, execute there. And I think that this really illustrates how much you have to think about on the other side and how easy it is to get outdrafted when you have this additional flexibility. You have to be deciding what you're going to do within a matter of seconds. And Origin had full information. TSM has no idea what's happening.
Yeah, adding just another layer to the whole aspect of Champion Select is the ability to swap players between lanes. This is just Origin we're talking about. You add to that G2 is another, you know, monster in the same regard, and Fnatic just the same. Again, all of those teams have their different flex picks that they can go towards, different players, different options, and it just becomes mountingly more difficult for NA teams to try and attack that. Now, with all of this understood, right, the mountain that is, you know, before North America to climb in this best of 5, we have to return to the first matchup of the day. Cloud9 submit blind. Fnatic is the response from Europe. Broxah is coming back into the jungle. Cloud9 is still playing with Blaber in at the marksman position for Sneaky. So let's talk about this matchup and how it might play out.
Well, yesterday we saw C9 against us. They put Blaber mid on Aatrox and they put Nisqy on Sivir.
Yes.
So they decided, okay, let's still go for traditional AD carry, even though we don't actually have an AD carry player here. I'm expecting them today to maybe switch it up and say we don't need a traditional AD carry. We don't have anyone who's used to playing this style. Like, there are a lot of kill lanes and combos we've seen. Hey, Zed Yuumi, you know, maybe take something from G2 there, and you have Nisqy on the Zed in the bot lane, just to give an example of what you could do with a mid lane player in that lane. So I think we're not gonna see traditional AD carry. And I think we're gonna try and see a very unique and creative kind of style from them.
And I would like to see a focus on some of these flex picks that are being used so well in the ban phase, you know, from these North American teams. If you cannot do that style, ban it out. Yes, you may be leaving up some of the more standard power picks. You may be leaving up some of the Yuumis and the Aatroxes and things like this. But I think it's a price you have to pay. You need to understand what the other team is doing in the draft if you're supposed to be counteracting it. And I want to see C9 playing very aggressively. Again, if you're not going to be playing with that standard marksman, then get in your opponent's face, draft strong early lanes, and try to snowball a game.
Give me the Licorice flex to bot lane on the Nico. Right?
Sure.
Nico player. He's a Nico player. Flex him down to bot lane on the Nico. Then you go Aatrox, Blaber, top lane.
You can easily do that.
I mean, I kind of, you know, in a weird way, this might be the push that Cloud9 or North America needs to kind of attempt this crazy flex style of like, well, look, we already don't have our marksman in the lineup, right? So, like, let's actually flex these guys on champions they're good at to good lane matchups.
You're probably not going to surprise Fnatic, though, because they're playing against flex picks and these styles in Europe all the time. And Fnatic are very, very good at targeting this in the early game and just get their carries ahead, like Rekkles or Nemesis, and just take control of the game.
Of the 3 EU teams, Fnatic seems to be the one most willing to play the traditional marksman in the bot lane, so we'll see if Rekkles decides to stretch back towards that. But as we talk about the matchup, the teams are getting ready, so it's time now for us to toss it into the battle arena for the call.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello everyone. Today is a very special day.
Hello.
It is my profound pleasure to welcome you all to the best casting duo in the West.
Nice, open with a joke. Get him on your side, I like it.
The creme de la cringe. It is myself, Medic, and the lovely Vedius, and together we are the Medi.
The Vedi
Duo!
Welcome, everyone.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And today is not only about our great casting, not at all. We are in a tri-cast today, and our lovely colleague, Sam Kobe Hartman Kensler, is celebrating his birthday.
77 today. He looks so good for his age. So good.
So if you could all please join us in a rousing rendition of Happy Birthday to Sam Kobe Hartman Kensler. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kobe. Happy birthday to you. Woo!
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. It's Many time.
Many time.
Many time.
Thank you.
Let's go.
Looking mighty fine for 77 years
Who
old.
licks the cake?
Yeah, what was that?
I don't know. I don't know what that is.
This is like the cats versus dogs show
Right?
match, you know?
That's
You had
like
some experience doing the
That's
cat.
one of those moments you're like, I'm on camera, I gotta do something.
Yeah.
And then that was the wrong thing to do. Either way, happy birthday, Kobe. As we wish Kobe a happy birthday, we must also point out, as we're at the State Farm Analyst Desk, it is also one Mark Zimmerman's birthday. Look at that happy face there.
Yeah, beautiful face. Get to see it all the
We're
time.
not singing for
You know what?
He rarely looks this happy, though.
I was gonna say
in the studio.
I would be pleasantly surprised to find that he is giving that exact look to his television at home right now in watching us wish him.
Yeah, I hope he
birthday.
spends it doing the things he loves, you know, being grumpy,
Playing TFT,
sitting on the couch,
complaining about things,
watching anime.
procrastinating. No. Keep going. Much love, Mark. We miss you. I'll see you next week for the LCS. As the casters get set up for game one, we'll be taking you through Champion Select here on the desk. As we've talked about, that's already a very tall task for any of these North American teams. And I'm very curious to see how Cloud9 ultimately approaches it. We have brought up the suggestion of, hey, take all the meta bans, throw them out the window, because attack the flex, might be the better way to go about it. And we're right into it. Yasuo banned for the side of Fnatic. You follow that up with a Pyke.
I like the respect ban. A lot of Fnatic fans now claims, obviously, Hilly as the best Pyke player in Europe after Fnatic beat G2 last week. And I think that will continue to be a big debate back in Europe on who is actually the best between the G2 players and Hilly.
And actually a lot of respect over towards him, the Rakan ban as well. One of the only players actually drawing Rakan bans, even when Xayah is not on the table.
Will they target bot lane in the game now? Banning all the way the supports.
I mean, it seems like it's certainly possible. I think they want to put them out of their comfort zone. And triple support ban, I think you're going for some sort of a kill lane in the bot lane, and you're trying to see if you can really take Fnatic off guard.
And I think, honestly, you have to try it. We said it before, traditional AD carry. Nisqy tried yesterday.
Yeah.
It was hard for him.
The karma comes through because it's left up.
Sneaky is sick. A lot of Cloud9, even that is playing, are apparently quite sick.
Exactly.
So, this is an uphill battle for them.
There's zero pressure on them right now. Like, you can go in and try a combination with a lot of wombos, a lot of, kill pressure. And if it fails in the early game, who cares, right? Because right now, you are the team who's been losing every game, and you are the team with a lot of sick members and no AD carry. So I think I like the start here.
Yep.
A lot of snowball pressure with Irelia and the Gragas. We wanted flexes. That is one of the things you can move. You can have in the jungle. You can go down to support. If you're crazy, you can put it into top as well. We haven't seen that in a while.
This I actually think is such a smart response from Fnatic. If you're saying the only chance for Cloud9 to really win this game is through an early snowball style of game, well, guess what? Renekton, one of the strongest laning champions in the game in top lane. Elise, one of the best 2v2 junglers in the game. Also, I think the best at actually pulling off dives alongside the Renekton. So they're going to match power with power, and they have a lot more experience. They've been playing better in this tournament. So I think it is an intelligent answer.
Is this going to end up being a Gragas Morgana bot lane?
It could also just be Gragas jungle. Morgana can go mid or support. I think that there is the ability to flex there.
But do you want Morgana support versus Karma support? That's not great. So
are you convinced that it's Karma support right now?
It could be mid.
It doesn't have to be.
It could be mid.
Obviously.
But that's the advantage, right, of the flex
and
of more
Renekton,
Karma.
technically, from what we have seen from pro play, has been swapped mid as well.
Yeah.
In case Irelia goes mid. So Fnatic have a lot of good answers, and Broxah is one of the best Elise players in the world, basically.
I mean, Irelia is a really bad matchup early into the Renekton. Even in North America, we've been seeing kind of this ring around the rosy, where if people do actually lock in this counter, the Renekton player will just follow the Irelia around the map. Every time the Irelia lane swaps, the Renekton bases and follows them around the map, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that here from Fnatic.
Yeah, Cloud9 feeling the liberty to ban 2 ADCs away from Fnatic, as Rekkles still hasn't made his pick just yet. The response on the other side is the Tom Kench and the Nico.
Okay, so support Gragas with something next to him that actually has early game pressure is one of the things I'm looking at on the side of C9 as an option. I really am not expecting Morgana to go into the Karma lane, if it is for support, that is.
Yeah, I mean, it's also possible to actually do a farming Morgana bot. I have seen that rarely, but it is something that you can go for.
Double jungle. Double jungle. Morgana holds bot lane alone. 1v2. She's one of the things that can do it.
I would be super stoked. You know what's odd is Svenskeren has Ignite.
Well, I mean...
And the summoner spell should be saved from his
They can still... Maybe they're playing 1v1 or something before practice, and he will change it.
Oh!
Blaber, I'm looking at double jungle right here.
Coming in, though, so maybe it is Svenskeren moving to a lane
maybe,
on the Gragas.
Maybe. Both Gragas and Morgana could technically be bot lane 1v2.
Yeah.
And try and hold.
Just try and wave clear
Gragas
hold.
doesn't have enough wave clear to do it.
Maybe
not until 3 points in Q and some AP,
If you're going to do it, I think it has to be Morgana in the 1v2. But I do think you can still use Morgana as part of the duo lane. They are saving their kind of final pick here for last, and we're going to get a little bit of an insight.
TF ADC with Soraka support,
Karma
mid.
No, it's going to be
Karma farming for Rekkles.
Yeah,
he did this once
Rekkles.
in the LEC.
Rekkles already played the Karma. He will grab it.
Karma Soraka bot.
Karma Soraka bot lane. I mean, you can kill the Soraka there.
I mean, good luck killing the. If you do an all-in lane, Soraka just goes barrier and guardian, and then good luck. Like I think it's very hard to actually all in against that lane. And I do think it's going to be... Okay.
So it's most likely Irelia mid versus the TF. Jax goes against Renekton top.
So Jax is tough into Renekton early, but you will outscale very, very heavily.
Yeah.
You know, they do have themselves set up kind of for a bit of a 1-3-1. Gragas, Morgana, as well as the Nidalee are kind of like sitting as this 3-man squad, maybe trying to help wave clear.
You know, we got what we asked for.
Yeah.
Right? Above all else, we got what we asked for from Cloud9 in that they moved away from the traditional ADCs and are deciding to throw a little something crazy.
I like it. I think it's you know it's going to be hard to pull it off. We will see this Jax swap.
Are they, or will they have Licorice playing?
Is Zeyzal playing?
So it's possible that they had an error with the swap. We have had this happen before.
True.
I would be shocked if Zeyzal is actually the one playing this. That wouldn't make a lot of sense to me, but I could be wrong.
Because then, in this case, they could be doing Gragas, Jax bot lane and try and play that as a kill lane.
You don't put Gragas with Jax.
Feels very
Jax is terrible for a kill lane. He's a scaling champion. He needs solo experience. He needs the items.
I didn't say it was a good kill lane, but maybe they could try.
into Karma Soraka? Are you trolling? No way.
Why would you have Licorice on the Morgana?
I think that had to be an error. That's my guess. But
they are actually remaking Champions real quick. I don't actually have an official word yet on what the reasoning is, so I don't want to give any false information out. But I just want to make that point of clarity that I don't know actually why it is being remade. I have been told that the picks will remain the same.
The
champion select stays. It might be a swapping issue. It might be something else.
And I'm just gonna go ahead and assume that is what it is, and we can talk about the game, kind of in that idea. Assuming that this is going to be Licorice on the Jax top. If you can survive the early game, you have Nidalee, a power farming jungler, which can be pretty powerful early, alongside the Irelia and the Jax. You have the ability to then maybe take the game into a 1-3-1. You're trying to look for a split push. You're trying to very much avoid the team fight. You have no interest in team fighting into this Soraka Karma type of game. And if you can avoid that kind of core, well, Soraka and Karma, aren't going to be as powerful as individual pieces. I think, in those.
I'm just trying to think, like, where are you looking to really snowball hard? You have a Nidalee jungle. That does not signal to me you're hard camping lanes or anything. But if you go up to Jax with Nidalee and there's a Elise Renekton on the other side, you're just gonna die.
I think it's more just about protecting him and pressuring, trying to actually be able to move around the map, power farm, keep eyes on the Elise, protect this Jax to where he can outscale.
I think Gragas Morgana bot lane, though, could actually push pretty effectively. And there is a chance you start seeing like roaming squad with the Morgana Gragas towards mid lane, where there's a TF you can gank. Because the Nidalee, to me, is obviously not here to gank. She's here to try and invade.
And you know what's weirdly interesting about that? If the picks are actually in the hands of the players that will pilot them, Licorice, Svenskeren as a duo might actually make more sense than any other duo.
And then you put Zeyzal
with
top
this
lane?
lineup. You put Zeyzal top because he doesn't have his duo and Nisqy in the lineup. At least Sven and Licorice work together in the early game.
Definitely picked him a tank if that's the case.
I think if you're putting Zeyzal top in a matchup that is pretty difficult early, playing against Renekton early as a Jax player, a skilling champion, where you're going to be getting camped by Broxah on Elise, that to me is like, that's a recipe to go 0-10. Like, that's the run it down.
I love how many questions there are regarding this draft and the players, who's actually playing it.
This is great. I mean, it's fun.
How are they going to survive early game top side, no matter who's there against Renekton Elise?
Yeah.
And the bot lane, like, against Soraka Karma, which is such a, no offense to Fnatic, but such a boring lane to look at because it is just like healing and shielding and not really anything else. But I think the Soraka is something, if you had a ganking jungler, you could have really tried to punish, but the Nidalee pick, obviously, well, I mean, he can try and gank at least.
If it's a Gragas bot lane,
they do have CC
if
set
you
up.
have Gragas bot lane, I could see the Nidalee being able to get some work done. Because, the flash knockup, Morgana's able to get up for a binding as well to follow up on that, maybe. There is potential for kills. They did take Ignite on the Gragas, Again, a lot of things are going right in this situation for the kill to come through. But
the other thing that you always have to keep in mind about Soraka, which I think is sometimes underrated, is as the split pusher, in the against scenario, you now have to deal with this additional ultimate, which is so powerful. It makes it much more difficult to win 1v1s. Post level 6 2v2s also become incredibly difficult. You can go for things like Athenes, charging up your Athenes with poke, and then the ultimate becomes even more powerful. So it really can swing side lane fights. And if that is the way that Cloud9 are going to try to play this game, then all of a sudden, yes, Renekton should be getting outscaled by the Jax, but if you're going the Spear of Shojin route and you have a Soraka backing you up with the ultimate, well, it's going to be hard.
Jax is probably 100 CS down or something, right? If you hard camp him in the early game.
Yeah.
We are getting close to ready here. It does appear that it was a swapping issue, so Licorice will be taking a hold of that Jax, and the Morgana will be piloted by Zeyzal in the, well, who knows where still, right? We assume in the bottom.
I'm still thinking it could be double jungle. Zeyzal holds bot alone with Morgana. Gragas, Nidalee as a jungling duo.
I think it's cool.
Tries to really shut down Broxah in the early game, and then
so you would go in that case, you would go Gragas, like your primary jungler, and then Nidalee kind of like the bot lane / secondary jungler?
Yeah, well, both of them as well will be able to clear super fast, especially Nidalee, if you're actually able to get her into the enemy jungle without Broxah being around.
My only concern there is they might not have the push in some of the lanes. If you don't have the push and you get clapped
that
on,
is the struggling part.
All right, well, I think we've only come up with more questions and more uncertainty since Champion Select, which is ultimately a good thing. It means we're in for a treat of a game. And with that, we are going to throw it out to the Battle Arena and the casters for the call. Help us make sense of this, guys.
Thank you very much, Dash. Can you make some sense of this? Kobe, Vedius, what are we looking at?
Quite obviously, it shall be the double jungle. I've had this happen to me in solo queue many times when a certain other member of my team gets autofilled and refuses to change off of jungle. Now, this strategy revolves completely around invading the enemy jungler super early on with the Nidalee and denying them camps, making one of their team completely useless.
Well, that would be the goal, but in order to do that, you have to have pressure elsewhere on the map. Now, while I can see a world in which, assuming that it is a Gragas Morgana bot lane, that Cloud9 can get pressure towards the bot side of the map, I think it's going to be very difficult for them to do that top side. So there's the real risk of the Renekton and Elise just moving into the enemy top side jungle and saying, well, if you want to invade me, then I'll just invade you with my stronger laners. So it's something that Cloud9 do have to be very aware of when they're pathing in the early game, and they're only running one smite Kobe as well. So is the double smite really super necessary for the double jungle, or is that just an added benefit?
You see, the Ignite is necessary for the second jungler because they're going for the kills.
I see.
When they go for the invade, yes. I mean, in all seriousness, yes, it is extremely difficult. They talked about it a bit on the desk, but it's almost impossible to push out a Karma Soraka lane from the bottom side of the map. So very rarely are you going to be able to have control from that side. And since there is a Twisted Fate, you usually actually want to attack the Twisted Fate. One of the oldest and truest sayings in League of Legends, go to the source of the global first, so you can try and weaken that power and take away Twisted Fate's ultimate ability by attacking that early on.
And while there is a lot of confusion in where some of the champions are going, what strategies they will unfold, the one thing we can be confident of is that Fnatic will dive top lane. The analyst desk already talked a lot about it. We're going to keep reinforcing it in the game. The reality is Renekton and Elise considered two of the strongest early game champions in League of Legends. And we're going to be seeing Bwipo set up a slow push. We're going to be seeing maybe even Twisted Fate look for an early roam. They may even send 3 people top. But the whole goal is to try and get Bwipo ahead.
Thoughts on these signs, fellas?
Well, I was hoping you'd do the dance for us again. It's free! We'll see how free it is after 40 minutes or so of gameplay, especially with Broxah playing an early game jungler who is just his sort of cup of tea at the moment. Like, it's what he excels at so much, is being aggressive in the early game.
Yeah, I've been a fan of Broxah for a super long time, and he has absolutely transformed Fnatic. From spring to summer, this team looks completely different, and it's off the back of this jungler. Broxah has absolutely been destroying teams, back-to-back ganks, tower diving very early on, and he's piloting the Elise. It's the perfect champion to go for tower dive. So you guys kind of mentioned the top lane as a prime target, but both of the melee solo laners are possibly abusable.
And at the beginning of the split, it was a big deal for Broxah to be able to prove himself as well. With the introduction of Dan to the roster, Broxah was very vocal about how he wanted to demonstrate that he was still one of the best junglers and that he could compete at the very best and that he didn't need to share time. And that I think so far this split, he's demonstrated how valuable he is to the team and how strong he is. And after yesterday's loss, he's looking to bounce back Fnatic coming into today's best of 5 against North America.
Of course, it's a little bit of a hampered C9, not having Nisqy in the squad, not having the sort of traditional bot lane player, and they're not going for traditional bot lanes. Neither team actually deciding on an AD carry. It brings up, the AD carry in 2019 meme again. But what do you guys think about these bot lanes? How do we think they're going to interact?
Well, Karma Soraka versus Gragas Morgana, I will be honest, probably not the most engaging of bot lane duo matchups, but it does very much depend on how much movement the Gragas does. I wouldn't be surprised to see this double roaming jungle threat where they kind of work together and you'll leave the Morgana to be independent. But I think that Karma Soraka is very much focused on farming, safety, security, and adding utility in the mid to late game.
And it's extremely difficult to actually get the kill in this lane with Karma and Soraka both having healing and shielding abilities. If we look at the summoner spells that they're holding right now, it would be a heal on Soraka. So the possibility is a Gragas Flash Ignite from Svenskeren all in on the Soraka is the one that you have to try and target and try to burn down. If you get the Ignite on early, you can try and cut the healing, and then Morgana flashes in to follow that up with a binding. If you land the body slam, then it's a guaranteed binding hit. However, you're probably going to need some extra damage to get through even the rest of the Karma shields, so it would probably be at the timing of a visit from Nidalee. Other than that, the Soraka and Karma will just wear you down in the lane, throwing out poke constantly, healing back up.
It's all come down to this. The finals of Rift Rivals kick off. Fnatic versus C9, looking to put a win on the board for their respective regions. And the battle between Europe and North America is always a spicy one. And this game looks to be no exception.
Well, let's have a look at what Cloud9 is up to in the early game. We do see a bit of grouping up towards the top side of the jungle. Morgana very early, very strong early on in the game because of the binding and because of her ability to set up for the rest of her team.
And whenever you are running compositions like this, you're going to want to go for some sort of early advantage, group up, see if you can get a flash blown somewhere. That will open up an area for Nidalee to try and attack. Let's see if Blaber will be able to make use of the early game power of Nidalee. If you can get any sort of early advantage, she farms very quickly, and then you can go for a lot of aggressive plays. And we are going to get a little bit of a delayed move here, just for the ward by the Pixel Brush.
Ward comes in from Fnatic as well, though, so they will spot out C9 going across towards their blue. Svenskeren playing the supportive role down in that bottom lane with the Spell Thief's Edge, as we expected. Morgana will be the one that is dutied with clearing the wave. But for now, Blaber will get his blue and no early invades from either team.
And Nidalee can actually stack up Conquer very quickly if you have your eyes towards the keystone for Blaber. So he's definitely looking to be hard carry from the jungle. Immediately, though, bottom side of the map, which everyone's looking at, Poke comes through. Nice double hit there by Rekkles with the empowered Q.
Notice that we're also running the Glacial Augment on top of the Karma as well, adding that extra bit of slow utility to the already obnoxious poke that comes out from Karma is naturally just added utility and more obnoxiousness.
And we're seeing that poke strategy wearing them down already, which is why we were kind of worried about the possibilities of Gragas actually laning, and why we started thinking about, oh, maybe it'll be Morgana 2v1. This is the kind of scenario that you have to deal with. Constant harassment from Soraka and Karma under your tower. They're being zoned away from the minions. No gold. Really being getting.
Let's have a look at where the junglers are as this push goes down in the bottom lane. You can see Broxah is down towards the bottom side of the map, just cleared out his Krugs. Blaber's up towards top, doing his red at the moment. Could look for a gank onto Bwipo. This Jax into a Renekton matchup going well for Licorice early on. Bwipo trying to trade with the Cull the Meat, but just going to be farming the minions for now. Gank in the mid lane as Broxah comes in. Nisqy flashes away, but Broxah still has the cocoon, holding onto it for the moment. Nisqy going to try and dodge away. Broxah does not land, and Nisqy with the fancy feet escapes.
Yeah, very important dodge right there for Nisqy. He's going to get the recall off and use the teleport to get back to lane. The early gank goes to Broxah here on the Elise. However, Nidalee power farm, so Blaber is a couple of camps ahead right now. Hasn't resulted in the level 4 yet until he either gets a Scuttle or Krugs, though.
We can see that both junglers are actually very aware of where the other one is as well. Immediate pings from both spawning out exactly where the other one is. So it feels like both Broxah and Blaber, rather, doing what they can to help inform their team what the enemy jungler is up to and where they're looking for a play. And Bwipo should have known that Blaber is topside right now.
Nisqy trading onto Nemesis, but Broxah's in the mid lane. Repels in, looking for the cocoon now. The stun card connects. There's the CC chain. Nisqy gonna go down. You have to feel. Broxah actually walking away from it. 6 in the fangs in the end of Fnatic strike first.
Yeah, easy repeat gank here for Broxah. Nisqy had the wave in a bad spot, pushing away from him, so he had to overextend there. Teleports back out, immediately gets punished for it, and that is the first blood for Fnatic.
And this is what surprises me, because it felt like Blaber knew where Broxah was. He knew that he was in the topside jungle, yet he chose to go up towards the top lane and look for a gank, rather than help Nisqy push out that mid wave, which meant that he did end up overextended, he does get caught, and Fnatic secure themselves first blood.
Yeah, you have to at least go in there and get a little vision or track exactly where the Elise is, because Nisqy doesn't have any options. His flash has already been blown by the first one. Just gets chased down here. There's no way he can get out of it. There's still flash available for Elise and Twisted Fate, and they don't even have to use them.
And the thing is, there was a ward sitting on... Oh, solo kill coming out for Bwipo. Blaber now looking towards the top side.
Maybe Licorice a bit over-eager as he knew Blaber was up here, but we're going to try and get away. Has the teleport, looking for the bush. You have to feel for the TP out, but counter TP comes in. Licorice going to join this fight. Bwipo executing to the time. Had to burn the flash. Bwipo raises his arms in surrender.
Well, guess he didn't burn it in the earlier 1v1. Yeah. Had it for the counter kill right there.
It was next level thinking, thinking many steps ahead. But Blaber cutting off the escape route of Bwipo so that he was forced to run underneath the tower. You can see the quick thinking of Bwipo was, if I can just get an execute, then this is still worth it for me. Unfortunately, he couldn't get out. So let's have a look back at how this 1v1 happened.
All right, so Cannon Minion about to go down. I bet Licorice goes for it. Nope. Bwipo actually takes...
Oh, but he's got the stacks of the Fury, Flashes in with the W. Immediate burst damage coming out from Bwipo. And then the collapse comes in, and it's just a matter of running away now. There's no one else on the side of Fnatic that can look to save it.
Yeah, Blaber's just corralling Bwipo into C9 territory.
Very close. Blaber forced away here in the bottom lane as Destiny came in from Nemesis. C9 can't find any connections as Broxah has to jump across the wall, but they will settle for the Scuttle Crowd.
And again, there's never going to be a world where Morgana Gragas has any sort of control from the bottom side of the map with that matchup. They're continually just getting pushed under tower, bleeding more and more money over to Fnatic with this setup. It's also, taking away quite a bit of Blaber's territory here, as we saw the invade there.
Yeah, you can look at the CS difference down in that bottom lane already. Rekkles on 51 to only the 22 of Zeyzal. Licorice fighting in the top lane. Bwipo jumping in with a slice and dice, but good jump away there from Licorice, managing to escape for the moment. Blaber on his way up. Bwipo not going to overextend too much, and Blaber won't be there in time, but maybe they can turn it around as Bwipo stays around in the lane.
It's a bit scary still, since the Fury Bar is stacked up for Bwipo, so you can just kind of hold it. Broxah gets hit with the spear.
Blaber looking for the pounce, will jump in onto the Spider. The Spider scuttles away across the wall, and on towards that blue buff. Licorice and Blaber getting some river control here for C9, maybe even looking for the invade on this blue.
C9 utilizing their pressure well. You can see that Nemesis stuck underneath this tower for the time being, and Svenskeren has made his way across. So we could start seeing this roaming duo jungle setup coming out from Cloud9 as, Broxah smites away the blue buff. Execution error coming out from the side of C9. Can they now make up for it with the top lane play?
Bwipo going to overextend into this. Counter-Strike comes up. Bwipo trading still. Has half of that cooldown on the ultimate, so doesn't want to be too aggressive, but forces Licorice away, and Blaber still unable to really find this first effective gank.
Yeah, Bwipo is able to get the full BF sword off of the kill that he got early on, even though he ended up going down. So a lot of burst damage we've seen. Svenskeren now roaming around and leaving Morgana to the 2v1 in bottom side, which is what we kind of thought would happen from the early stages of the game, but it might be too late. Fnatic already have a ginormous gold lead from all of the lanes. It's going to be very difficult here for Cloud9 to come back because turret plates will be taken at will.
Now look, C9 have noticed that Broxah very overextended in the enemy jungle, but Broxah feels safe because he has Bwipo there to protect him, and Twisted Fate ultimate is relatively soon. So he feels that he can just walk in the enemy jungle without any fear, even though he's walking through all this vision, and C9 are very limited in their options.
And this is where it gets really dicey. The minions start to deny to the tower. You can see Bwipo still between the turrets. Nisqy does use the ultimate. No all in though.
Does force the flash out at least from Nemesis, and Blaber going to be forced away from his tower. Surprised we didn't see that many early dives coming out from Broxah, largely because Bwipo was generating so much pressure himself in the 1 versus 1. But Broxah spent a lot more time around mid. Now they're looking for it.
Licorice maybe a little bit over-eager with the play here. Broxah jumps in and Licorice will fall. Second death of the game for him. Fnatic will look to push in this top lane tower.
Yeah, no need to dive. Just kill him right there outside of the turret, and that is going to be demolished on the turret as well. Bwipo quickly melting this one down.
And Bwipo is building a massive advantage for himself. 1.4k is his current gold lead. He's sitting about a 25 CS advantage, and this is one of the dangers of giving these winning matchups over to Bwipo. He likes to play aggressive, he likes to get in your face, and something we've been seeing a lot more of Fnatic this split is Broxah is willing to play around him. Now, can Blaber finally get something back on the board? Because he hasn't been able to generate much pressure on the map so far.
And I do think it's important that Broxah went mid early on, because we talked about Twisted Fate, that being an area for Cloud9 to attack, but if Broxah goes there first and gets the advantage for Nemesis, that just opens up the entire map. So Cloud9 have to constantly be afraid of Twisted Fate ultimates now because of the early advantage they were able to get ganking Nisqy over and over.
And you can already see it on the minimap, but I don't have time because Fnatic looking for a play.
Rekkles looking for the chains there. Broxah. Cocoon is immune there by Zeyzal with the Black Shield, and that is what you can do on the Morgana, stop some of that CC coming through.
And you can see, like you were talking about, we just had a half roam down here from Twisted Fate. Anytime you get that room with those control wards, it means that C9 have to concede all area.
Broxah continuing his aggression, looking for Nisqy.
Nisqy jumping in with the Blade Surge, lands a great flawless duet, jumps back onto Broxah, all the way around to the top side of the map. Licorice now joining with his mid laner, going into Broxah, trying to get the kill onto this Elise, but Nisqy has to flash away. TP coming in for Fnatic, and now Licorice is stuck in a very sticky situation. Stunned up, locked down, Fnatic, take 2.
Beautifully played by Fnatic, and quick response there from Bwipo to help his mid-jungle duo out. Things were looking pretty good for Nisqy. He was dipping, diving, dodging, everything. But unfortunately, he just didn't have the damage nor the HP to outplay that situation even when Licorice arrived. So Fnatic lose another 2 members. C9 lose another 2 members, rather. Fnatic continue to snowball the gold.
Yeah, looks like this might be a quick one. Here's another replay. Control ward from Fnatic, like we were talking about in the brush here. Bwipo just walks up. Nisqy trying to get CS, but there's no more minions left to dodge around to. Oh, we have another...
Yeah, Ignite goes down onto from Svenskeren here onto Hylissang. Blaber coming in from the side as well, but the Black Shield will keep him immune from that Equinox now. Hylissang dodging around, there's the Nemesis. TP comes in from him with that Destiny. They force away Blaber, and C9 will just have to retreat away from Fnatic.
Good utilization of the ultimate, though, from Nemesis to scare away the C9 members who are doing what they can to look for a play. They now have 4 members towards this bot side of the map, but they don't have the HP bars to look for a dive. And Licorice, even though he has teleport, he's not looking to join the fight, but Fnatic immediately noting where there multiple members of C9 are looking to trade pressure elsewhere on the map. They utilize the Rift Herald, they'll take themselves even more plates.
You talked about it, Kobe. It's all about the plates. 5 down in the top lane, 4 in mid now. 2 have fallen down towards the bottom side, and C9 have yet to get one for themselves. They still have 2 minutes left on that timer, but right now it's looking very dicey.
Yeah, I mean, just compare the item completions right now. We had the rushed, fully completed Spear of Sojin by Bwipo on the Renekton, just to the phage of Licorice. So there's not really any sort of fighting back when you're looking at a 10 to 7 level difference and a fully completed item.
And you're looking at an 8,000 gold difference as well as Bwipo jumps in the mid lane. Nemesis tanking up the tower. The turret's still alive. Nisqy gets him! And Nisqy will take the kill. Bwipo falls as well! A botched tower dive and C9 come out alive.
Cloud9 gonna get some kills back for themselves. Nisqy gets both of them there. Maybe they can fund a Trinity Force. That is the hope, right? They're trying to get one of these champions to get a Trinity Force to have some burst damage to fight back against Fnatic.
C9 going to be happy with that pickup, but definitely a very greedy play coming out from the Fnatic top and mid duo. You can see that their goal is to secure this tower, but they run out of minions. So what we'll notice is that Nisqy just dancing around, building up the stacks on his passive, but then Fnatic go for the dive before the tower is even gone. Beautiful use of the ultimate to actually get that slow onto Nemesis so that he takes much more tower shots than he's planning, which then allows Nisqy to kill the backline, turn back onto the Renekton, and they end up securing themselves a double kill.
Brief moment of hope for C9, but Fnatic still very much in control of this early game. 7,000 gold ahead. With the dragon going down as well, that will be a mountain for them. Svenskeren actually going to get rooted up here. Hylissang there as the TP comes in from C9. They're looking for the fight. 3v2 in the bottom lane. Licorice jumps in. Hylissang locked up, and now it's Rekkles' turn to fall as well. Blaber and Nisqy on their way down. It's a shutdown for C9.
And this is another big punish from the side of Cloud9. They were the team that had the teleport advantage, and the moment the Rekkles and Hylissang overextend, Licorice is able to find the flank, and they pick themselves up another 2 kills. Yes, the gold gap is still very big, but finding these picks is definitely what Cloud9 need.
And they've got 15 seconds to try and get some turret plates off of that turret too. It's still so early in the game. Turret plates are up, and they get some extra money off of it, but it's in exchange for a secondary turret on top side, as Renekton is able to get rid of that one.
And this is something that we often see from so many of the European teams, where even if they sacrifice something one side, they're always willing to trade it for something else on the map. So what should have been disaster for Fnatic actually allows them to secure a tier 2 in the top lane, and they're even able to gain mid priority as well. Cloud9 doing what they can to secure the Drake. Now they're looking for another pick.
Destiny going down bottom lane as Licorice is overextended. Hylissang, Rekkles, and Nemesis all here to pick up the kill. Licorice going to try and dodge around as much as he can with the counter-strike, but he won't survive for long. Nemesis secures it.
Licorice trying to scrape together enough money to get his Trinity Force right there. That's why he stayed around for the extra turret plate. He did get it, but cost him his life. And now Cloud9
looking for the play in mid lane as Nisqy jumps into Bwipo, has to dodge around. The Vanguard's edge comes out as well, but Bwipo just so tanky at the moment. Takes the kill in the 1v1. Svenskeren jumping onto Broxah, looking for that final auto. Broxah unable to stun him in time, and now Blaber and Svenskeren on the wrong side of the map. Up towards the top side, Zeyzal has to flash away. Rekkles on the chase. Blaber forced down towards the bottom side as Zeyzal gonna get caught out here by Fnatic. Hylissang and Rekkles will get that kill in the end. And now down towards the middle of the map, you can see
Jungle
Blaber
duo!
and Svenskeren, the jungle duo we talked about in Picks and Ban, trying to get away from Bwipo. Svenskeren should be able to sacrifice here. Blaber will fall as well. And C9 escape.
All part of the
synergy,
plan,
my friend.
Live together, die together, Kobe. That's what they were looking for, and they're able to get away from the jaws of Fnatic.
Escape into the loving arms of the turret for the double execute from the double C9 junglers. Now, of course, Fnatic have full reign of the map right now, but Cloud9's still looking at great plays, right? They're not going to go down just sitting at their towers. They look for the one onto Broxah there. Doesn't quite hit the binding, so they have to chase him down. Meanwhile, Nisqy in a 1v1 versus that Renekton, Bwipo's just way too fed.
Yeah,
there's no way you can dance around the Spear of Sojin Renekton. He just stands there and gets the empower W off, and you go down.
Level 11, fully completed item Renekton, definitely scary, but he's not that quick, so we can't chase down the duo of C9. And they're even able to get a bit of poke off as they're running away.
Have you heard that story about when you're running from the crocodile, you have to zig and zag,
Yes.
change your angles? I heard follow-up from my biology major friend that is just made up.
Yeah, that's not true. That's not true.
I don't think that actually helps you at all.
Yeah.
It's kind of a bait because then you don't run in a straight line and get further distance.
If anything, the crocodile is just looking at you like, well, I guess this closes the gap even quicker if I run in a straight line.
I'm also pretty sure most humans can run faster than crocodiles can. So if you just run in a straight line, you're going to get away from them. But I might be wrong there. I'm not a veterinarian.
It's even more scary when the crocodile has a giant blade. So that's definitely...
and a spear and a black cleaver.
A spear and an axe, if you will. All right.
Fnatic grouping up towards the bot side. They're keeping pressure mid, and they're going to siege onto this tier 2.
Nisqy with the rest of Cloud9 going to try and defend, but that tower already down to half HP. Nisqy takes half his health in damage. The knockback with the explosive cast will force Fnatic back for the moment. The wave is coming in soon, and Bwipo is still just pushing in side lanes or mid lane here. Takes that second tier 2 tower, and now Fnatic can just wait for this wave to come in and force C9 to try and respond.
Fnatic could look for a dive here. They just need Renekton to gain a little bit more priority in the mid lane. But
Here
now
we
they're
go.
the flank.
Here we go. Teleport coming in behind Fnatic. C9. Last chance saloon you have to feel. Blaber stepping forward. Hylissang low. There's the Vanguard's edge. And Hylissang's done. Svenskeren low up towards the top side, but Nemesis caught out by Nisqy. The chase, the surge of the blades from the Irelia. 3 kills to Cloud9, and they have struck back.
Cloud9 with the teleport flank from Nisqy. He is not going to go down without a fight. Level 11 now on the Irelia. Does get the blue buff as well. Don't want to tango with Bwipo.
Some really big shutdowns there from the side of Cloud9. Keeping Bwipo in the mid lane meant that one of the biggest strengths of Fnatic was actually not in the fight. This Karma and Soraka do not do a lot of damage. So that was the best situation that Cloud9 could look for a fight. So in the fog of war, he's able to find this flank. Good chip damage comes down onto Hylissang initially, and with the healing gone, this is the prime opportunity for C9 to get.
That extra tower shot onto Hylissang got him into execute range. So Nisqy could just fire off the ultimate, reset Q, reset another Q onto Twisted Fate, and chase down for the extra kills. Now, they're trying to have a good time here. They got some Trinity forces on their carries. Jax and Irelia at least have gotten to their first item, even though their counterparts are already up to number 2.
And that gold lead hasn't extended by too much in the last few minutes either. C9 holding on to this game. It is still 7,000 gold deficit, of course, and as you say, Nash is 2 and Trinity Force finished on Nemesis. Bwipo getting up towards the Titanic Hydra, or maybe the Sterax, as his third completed item as well.
And we kind of went over, you don't win this game by sitting under your towers. You got to group up, look for some kills where you have numbers advantage. This is a 1v1 though, you got to get out of there!
And Nisqy needs to get away, but doesn't have the flash, and Bwipo can chase him down. It's a very tanky crocodile.
Nisqy tried the zigzag technique and it just could not help him. He did what he could. Bwipo gets the chase down. He ends up securing that kill, and Fnatic, with their good vision control towards the bot side, will secure this Ocean Drake without any contention.
Try the straight line back to your fountain. That's going to be the new strategy.
So now we can see that Fnatic is actually threatening all 3 lanes. Given that they've just secured a kill, it's a lot harder for Cloud9 to try and fight back. So having pushed in mid, they're now setting up for another play on bot once again. And if Cloud9... Oh, he was just using it to get some vision for Bwipo in the top side, who's going to recognize Blaber who's up in that lane, and they can look to secure this tower without much challenge.
Yeah, I like that check, because you saw in the minimap, Bwipo was about to take a 1v1 with Licorice, and he's like, hey, quick check here, is this actually a 1v1? Because I can take a 1v1, but a 1v3, not going to be doable.
Yeah, next time I misclick it in ranked as well, I'm going to say, oh, just looking for vision, guys. Just vision plays. Fine. For the moment, Fnatic have now broken all of the towers outside of the C9 base. We'll be looking for those inhibs. Baron has spawned as well, so getting vision control around that is Cloud9's primary objective. That's exactly what Blaber and Svenskeren are doing.
And this is one of those situations where you look at the kill score and you think, hey, C9 aren't doing that badly. But then you compare the towers and you're like, oh, Fnatic, every time they've ended up losing members, they've always been trading it for another objective, whereas a lot of the fights that C9 find, they're not able to turn it into much. So while they are finding picks and punishes onto the Fnatic members, so far it's not helping them in terms of the gold.
Broxah knocked airborne there, has to flash across the wall, healed up, and here comes the teleport. We're going to join this fight. Pops the ultimate straight away. C9 looking for the Barney in the river as Bwipo goes down. C9 now in a 5v4 can look for the fight. Nisqy jumping around as much as he can. Licorice jumps forward as well. But now C9 have to back away because Rekkles is on the charge. Stun lands onto Hylissang. Nisqy unable to get the damage down and the Soraka survives. So does Nisqy though. Just about alive on the backside of the fight. Destiny comes out. This one's not for vision. This is for the chase. But Nemesis unable to find his man.
Fnatic just don't have enough damage without Bwipo, which means that the moment that he drops, Cloud9 can just walk out of this fight. But again, while they don't convert it into any objectives, at the very least, they slow Fnatic down and they buy Cloud9 more time to scale.
Yeah, I think Fnatic were thinking with that teleport that Cloud9 were going to back off and run away from the Renekton coming in. But if the rest of the team doesn't move up to threaten that, then Cloud9 will just turn and focus down the main DPS source.
So we've worked out the other way that you can beat a crocodile if it's running at you.
Get 4 friends.
4 friends and punch it all. That's how it works.
So we can see the initial pick coming down onto Broxah, which means a lot of the sustain tools we used to keep him alive. Notice as well that Twisted Fate is not in position to assist with this fight, which means that this is already a 4 versus 5, even with the awkward positioning from the side of Fnatic as well. So C9 is set up for success, but then we can just see that the damage from AD Twisted Fate, not the same amount of burst that can come out, which means that finding these last hits just doesn't come through from Fnatic.
Rekkles actually flashes, and Mantra inspires, Mantra Qs onto a minion as well. Doesn't hit the backline, hits a minion that's standing in front of him, so they don't get any of that extra damage out.
All right, reset here for C9. They've been able to spend some of that gold, and they've collected all of the bounties, by the way. If you look at the scoreboard, no further bounties remain on the side of Fnatic. So some of the gold they may have been able to get back for themselves, and now they're just trying to hold these waves that have been pushed in. The only towers that still remain for C9 are their inhibitor turrets. That is their last line of defense, and they're trying to get some back for themselves. Nisqy on the top side might kill the first turret in favor of C9.
Bwipo looking for the kill underneath the tower here, though, as Licorice is back in his base. Counter-Strike will get the stun lock. Broxah kills Blaber. Zeyzal in the middle of this fight as well with the Soul Shackle. Svenskeren has to flash away, but Broxah sinks in the fangs. And Nisqy coming down to help out his team might be a little bit too late. Lands the flawless duet. Black Shield comes out as well. He's going to try and dodge around this fight, but he just doesn't have any healing reduction. And Nemesis will take him out in the end. Licorice trading onto Bwipo, who must have taken a few tower shots there. Otherwise, I don't see how the Jax comes out that far ahead.
That's a huge pick for Fnatic in the mid lane. That gives them control over Baron, and they're starting it up. The only one with anything to say about it is Zeyzal. In the mid lane, Licorice is trying to push up as well, but no vision currently for C9 for the steal. It would have to be a lucky blind binding.
Very difficult for Zeyzal to take it. Tries to get it with the Super Soaker, but can't secure it. Fnatic get the Baron 23 minutes in. They are in control of this game. Let's have another look at what started at that fight.
So they find an initial binding onto Soraka and think that they can go for this pick, but Nemesis, while he was looking for a dive bot, quickly pivots to using his ultimate to join the rest of the team mid. So they turn that 3 versus 3 into a 4 versus 3, allowing Fnatic to come out on top.
Yeah, critically this time around, C9 make the pick, but they don't make it with Nisqy there. So they're missing a large portion of their damage to actually finish off that kill. If you don't have the Irelia with the Trinity Force burst, they're unable to take him down.
Thank you.
That's actually looking pretty fast. You said that most humans could outrun that? I'm pretty scared.
I'm going to have a quick look just to see what the fastest human running speed is.
I mean, do you know what your fastest running speed is? Because mine's not near 22.
Humans can perhaps run as fast as 40 miles an hour in the past. Now,
my game up.
Usain Bolt is 28 miles an hour on his 100 meters. So
we've been slacking off there.
We would probably all die. Crocodile started chasing us, and now we're...
All right, we need to make a deal then, Medic. We tripped Betty, and...
Oh, okay, I see how it is.
I don't need to outrun the crocodile. I just need to outrun you two.
Yeah, Medicobi still rhymes, I guess.
I've got Ender for support in the end. Okay, so Fnatic have opened up this inhibitor tower down towards the bottom side. Rekkles is pushing in mid. C9 looking to defend the inhibitor, but Bwipo just stepping forward, gets caught with the binding, knocked back into the team. Licorice going for the stun here. Counter-Strike will connect. The stun lands on Bwipo and he's very low. Nisqy gets the kill. Now, C9 going to keep it on the offensive, stepping forward into the faces of Fnatic. But Rekkles has a flank position and Nemesis takes one. Broxah pushing forward here as well and lands the cocoon onto Nisqy, trying to dodge around, but Nisqy eventually will go down. And that is 3 quick kills for Fnatic as they look to close out this game.
Nemesis looking to round out this game by securing a kill onto Blaber. He can't do it, but Broxah sure can. Rekkles flashes in, Fnatic find the convincing fight, and they're looking to end this game with a couple more kills.
Svenskeren stutter stepping there. Little bit of BM. Broxah eventually will sink in the fans. They'll get the ace, and Fnatic will be able to take the game. Strong performance by them. Of course, C9 playing without Nisqy, hampered to say the least, but Fnatic eventually will clear this out. Actually, the minions try to kill Hylissang, helping out Cloud9 as much as possible. Fnatic take the Nexus and strike first here for Europe.
Fnatic had full control over the vast majority of the early game. We didn't really get to see much counter jungling come out from Blaber. It felt like the pressure was in favor of Fnatic, and something you alluded to, Kobe, was that early gank mid lane from Broxah meant that one of the big lanes that C9 could have looked to play around was hampered very early on. So it felt like while Fnatic controlled the early, even though there were some good fights coming out from Cloud9 in the mid, because of the gold discrepancy, they could never convert it into anything more.
Yeah, Fnatic with some super strong lane matchups for themselves to play around, and really good early attention from Broxah allows them to snowball game number 1 and put Europe ahead.
We're pretty happy with that. Of course, after seeing Fnatic lose to TSM yesterday, there were some question marks, but with Broxah back in, Fnatic looking very strong. C9, on the other hand, they'll be disappointed. They had some very good plays when they were behind. Even when they were 7 or 8K, they were finding some fights, but without Nisqy, you do feel that team just isn't quite of the caliber it usually performs at.
Yeah, I think they were stuck in a bad situation and they made the best of it. And as you highlighted, there were definitely some highlight moments. I feel like Nisqy overall has actually had a very solid tournament. And I'm excited to see what he can do coming back into the LCS. But overall, definitely a tough situation. And Broxah, he held no punches in the early game.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those games where you look for some limit testing because you have a little bit extra margins to play with.
It's true. It's true. They are obviously pushing their limits as much as possible. Looking at the next couple of games, though, we have Origin playing up against TSM next, I do believe. How are you guys feeling?
I don't know. Do we?
I think so, but I'm not 100% sure.
I know the Origin want to play against TSM, but I don't know when.
Okay, so we'll find out in just a couple of minutes. For more on how Game 1 played out, though, we're going to hand it over to the State Farm analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Medic. VoD is forever the font of information
Leaking
there,
those
as
strats.
you can see. But Fnatic will snag that first win over Cloud9, following what was an absolutely insane and crazy draft, which we expected with the substitution for Cloud9.
Predicted a full draft.
Exactly. Predicted every single pick. But within that craziness, we still had a lot of questions about how Cloud9 planned to execute this composition. There were some theories around the, perma-pushing, stable bot lane or something like that while the Nidalee can get work done. But in reality, that bot lane was just punished time and time again in the strict 2v2.
So let's get out of the way. Credit to Youngbuck and Fnatic for understanding how to counter this potential cheese strat.
Okay.
Karma, Soraka, bot lane. Kandai can just push and actually keep you there. And Renekton Elise, which means you can't actually snowball topside either. Makes it really hard to play the game. But I just have more questions now regarding the C9 draft, especially the Nidalee pick. That was like, I'm not going to dive into what happened there, blah, 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 but I really wanted to understand what the idea was going to be with it. Because you can't gank anywhere, you can't invade either because you're getting pushed in every lane.
So, I mean, this is my thought. So they picked the Morgana and the Gragas before we saw the bot lane, right?
So they were going to hold back.
So I think my thought is that you say, all right, you have these guys who both have AoE damage, can push in the early waves against a normal bot lane.
Exactly.
And then what's going to happen is once they do that, you get a couple levels on Gragas. Gragas is going to roam around for the rest of the game.
You're going to join up with Nidalee.
Join up with Nidalee, and then you're going to make these 3-man plays. And that's my guess, right? But when your bot lane's stuck under a turret and getting slammed, then all that's out of the window, and all of a sudden you can't 2v2 and nothing's going to go right. But I mean, they're shooting their shot, right? They don't have their starting
I think you have to try.
Again, it's what we asked for, and we can give credit there. Of course, flexing the Karma down to the bot lane was a very intelligent response for Fnatic to that
Big
bot
EU
lane
brain again.
of Cloud9. The Elise gets picked up in the jungle, which essentially nullifies the Nidalee. We saw that CS lead for the bot lane. Meanwhile, on the top side, Renekton is handling the Jax in the 1v1 as is expected. The Nidalee can't contest because they're going to lose the 2v2 to an Elise added in there on top of it all.
Yeah, that was actually really clean from Bwipo. Really well done. And yeah, I mean, once the Jax is behind it, it becomes pretty doomed. It's very hard to catch back up for a long time, especially because Bwipo intelligently rushed for Spear of Trojan. That is such a strong 1v1 item, and they were able to snowball the game incredibly well, despite the fact that C9 actually caught up in kills. They were down like 10K.
I mean, I was actually surprised later on in the game how the team fight ended up looking like. It felt like C9, at least for the start of the fight, it was actually fairly even. They got like 1 or 2 kills. Some of the Fnatic members were low, and I for maybe half a second in this game, the thought that a comeback could happen.
Which half second?
It was.
Yeah.
It was
Where
around.
was the half second?
Around 25 minutes.
Okay, I was gonna say
it was about
23:52.
something like that.
It was
for like
about
that half second where I think the Jax
Good to
got
know.
a kill.
Keep
No,
it
it was when you said to me, look, Jax almost 1v1 the Renekton. So for half a second when you said it, before my brain said, wait, Renekton was under the turret the entire time, taking like 6 tower shots. For that half a second, I actually was like,
You're putting it as though I was
maybe this
saying
could
at
happen.
any point that this was going to be...
You were believing definitely in the comeback.
They're down
This is the bias I'm dealing with on the
I
analyst
know, for real. Well, while we talk about, how one-sided it was in the early game for Fnatic, as you mentioned, there were a couple moments where Cloud9
Yeah, let's
found
pull
a
up
killer
the NA
too.
highlights.
But there are no NA highlights.
Oh.
There's just the final fight.
Oh, okay.
But the demise of NA here in this final fight.
You believe for a moment here when they get the first.
All right.
Renekton dies.
Point it out for me, that moment of belief.
Wait for it.
Pull it out.
Wait. Binding hits. Okay, now.
Belief! I
stop
believe!
believing.
Deficio!
And he dies. Wait for it. You kind of believe right there. You believe.
Oh my goodness.
The next binding missed.
Who is this mystical you that is believing it in the game?
You believe.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not seeing it. They're still down a good 10, 12K. They're in their base.
Sure. That's a problem. That's a problem.
Okay, it could be tough to deal with.
All right, well, so game 1 of the best of 5 goes to Fnatic as we watch this play out. We do know that TSM is coming in for game 2. They have selected blue side since NA side choice.
So they're not doing the TL1.
Exactly, for the second game of the day. The response will be Origin from the EU team.
Thank you, Betty.
So we do now know our matchup, TSM versus Origin, TSM on the blue side. So I want to briefly preface that matchup. Maybe not so much from this guy, as we know he's clearly biased, and I don't want to push you to reveal any straps.
What gave it away? Is it the jacket? It must be the jacket, right?
I don't know, I had a
glasses.
sense.
They have a little blue tint in the right light. You can
Zeyzal, what do we want to see out of a TSM to even up the series?
So, I mean, we got to actually go over one of their previous game, the drafting there. I think you have to target the flex picks. I think you
do
have
the opposite
to...
of that, yeah.
Exactly. Everything they don't do that. So I think they also need to be, going more towards flex picks in the early rounds themselves so that Origin doesn't have such a clear time of what, TSM is looking for their game plan. I did like what we saw from them yesterday. I think that was, their game against Fnatic was much more of kind of a blueprint that could help them to get a win. I do think that they can have a close game, and I think that they should make enough adjustments that it's at least a competitive game. Because last time around it was an absolute slaughter, and I'm certainly not expecting it to be that one-sided.
I do have to note, Greg is actually in the lineup.
Okay.
So while earlier today we talked about Acadian's step up on that Elise against Fnatic just yesterday, Greg will be subbing in. With that information, does that change the approach to the game here at all? Because while we do recognize Acadian typically as a slightly more aggressive jungler, someone who can reach for that Elise, typically Greg is on the Sejuanis, the Heckrams, slightly more...
Right. I mean, I actually thought coming into the tournament that one of the ways for the NA teams to try and win was, these big team fight comps like the Zona Taric, try and group as 5 with hard engage and try and punish some of the EU teams when they are playing, all 3 lanes. Maybe that is the style they are going for here with Greg, like first pick Sejuani, something like this, and then play towards just 5-man team fighting and not actually try and match like they did in the last game with Jace and Akali against us.
And I mean, I also don't think that you have to go, every single thing has to be the most early game, right? I still think you can go Sejuani and then you can go powerful early solo lanes that have push and ways to actually support that, right? So, it's just, I don't want to see if it's going to be Sejuani. Please do not give me Azir and Ezreal alongside that. I think if you do that kind of a draft where you're going to have everything pushed in, I think Origin's going to run over you. So you need to have some form of power in the early game that is going to kind of facilitate getting the Sejuani to that later stage where then maybe you can look for the kind of 5v5.
Well, fair enough. Fnatic kicks off the series with a win for EU. We sit at 1-0. When we return, the series continues though with TSM versus Origin. So don't go anywhere.
The stun card connects. There's the CC chain. Nisqy gonna go down. You have to feel. Broxah actually walking away from it. 6 in the fangs. Counter TP comes in. Licorice gonna join this fight. Bwipo executing to the time. Trying to get the kill onto this Elise, but Nisqy has to flash away. TP coming in for Fnatic, and now Licorice is stuck in a very sticky situation. Stunned up, locked down. Fnatic take 2.
Chief is taking.
Can't let me dead.
Chief's dead.
Yeah, let's kill this guy, kill this guy. Nice. Good shit, Nisqy.
Last chance saloon, you have to feel. Blaber stepping forward, Hylissang low, there's the Vanguard dash, and Hylissang's done! Svenskeren slow up towards the top side, but Nemesis caught out by Nisqy. The chase, the surge of the blades! C9 gonna keep it on the offensive, stepping forward into the bases of Fnatic, but Rekkles has a flank position and Nemesis takes 1. Broxah pushing forward here as well, and lands the cocoon onto Nisqy, trying to dodge around, but Nisqy eventually will go down.
A great product can define the present, but it takes the unprecedented to define the future. To go beyond what's next and change the world of gaming. To make history, break ground, and force the universe to take notice.